In 1998, a biological incident takes place within Raccoon Forest that would eventually change the world forever. With the existence of bioorganic weapons now known to the public, world governments rapidly responded by establishing their own counter-terrorist groups to combat the monsters that are created by greedy corporations, terrorists, and evil dictators. In this video, I'll be taking a look back at the creatures of both Remake 1 and 0, and analysing each of them in turn. And if you do enjoy this and want to see more, leave a like and subscribe, that way you can stay up to date on all future videos I put up. Before going through some key points to add more context to the monsters of Resident Evil, it's important to note that both 0 and the first remake have slightly different stories to the original game. In this version, the viral outbreak was not an accident, but caused by the Queen Leech. The event occurred in the early part of 1998, when a sentient research specimen caused a containment failure within the lab beneath the Spencer Mansion, one of many facilities owned by a pharmaceutical company called the Umbrella Corporation, who are a household name and supplier of various medical products, with branches all over the world. While Umbrella grew to become one of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies, they secretly built facilities to create and sell biological weapons on the black market. This secret side of the company made them richer as well as more influential in global politics. These hidden facilities held many human test subjects, who were experimented on in order to make them into organic military weapons to be sold to the highest bidder, and it seemed that no one could stop Umbrella until the events in Raccoon Forest. The Spencer Mansion nearby was constructed over the Arkley Laboratory on the orders of Umbrella founder Oswald E. Spencer. The mansion and the guardhouse residence became the home of Umbrella employees who were involved with the illegal research and manufacture of bioorganic weapons that took place within the underground labs. After the Queen Leech attack, the viral weapon known as the T-Virus escaped the labs and soon began to spread across the mansion grounds. By the time the virus dissipated, it was already too late for the quarantined workers, as they began to show signs of infection, and with no one in control, the BOWs were free to roam the mansion grounds and surrounding forest. A short time later, Umbrella would try to continue their research with the T-Virus by reopening a nearby abandoned executive training school, and sent two groups to the facility that consisted of paramilitary, engineers, and researchers. The first group were attacked and infected by the same creatures experimented on by Dr. James Marcus, the former Umbrella general manager of the school. The second group, on their way to the facility on an Umbrella-owned private train called the Ecliptic Express, were attacked by the Queen Leech, which formed itself into the shape of its creator, James Marcus, and used its leeches to infect the train's occupants with the T-Virus. The T-Virus itself, it originated from the progenitor virus, which is an ancient retrovirus capable of causing an aggressive mutation of the infectee's genetic code. Marcus succeeded in creating a prototype of the Tyrant virus after combining progenitor with Leech DNA and began human testing. After Umbrella had Marcus assassinated, they continued with his research and were able to create bioorganic weapons, or BOWs. It's highly infectious and can be transmitted in various ways, including airborne, bites, cuts, and ingestion of contaminated foods. Because of this, there is a greater risk of something that is called secondary infection, which means that some of the creatures were made unintentionally. So with that all in mind, let's take a closer look at the monsters. The most numerous enemy type encountered throughout the Raccoon Forest region are the zombies. These former human beings appear in various tattered and bloody clothings, ranging from civilian wear to job uniforms that they were in during the time of their change. With their rotting flesh at different stages of decay, most of the zombies are Umbrella employees, with the exception of infected STARS members and the naked zombies, who were cadavers that Umbrella experimented on. They usually walk slow, with extended arms to grab their intended victims, so that they can chew down on their necks. As they don't feel pain, it only makes them more relentless in their pursuit, as the removal of their limbs have no effect. They'll continue to crawl forwards to bite at their legs, or sometimes even vomit acidic bile to make their living meals more digestible. Only by destroying their brain, or by burning their bodies, will it finally stop them. Named after the zombies of Haitian folklore, they resemble a corpse that has been reanimated through dark magics, but this is where the similarities end, as the virus cannot actually revive the dead until later games. The T-virus causes a drastic change in the host, destroying their brain cells so they lose their intelligence while becoming more aggressive. Their body continues to degenerate, with the nervous system shutting down, resulting in them no longer feeling pain, and as zombies have a high metabolism, they'll eventually develop an uncontrollable hunger for living meat in an instinctive attempt to sustain their withering bodies. The Crimson Heads are a more aggressive type of zombie that are created by a mutant strain of the T-virus, which Umbrella discovered after one unique infectee, codenamed Crimson Head Prototype 1, had mutated into a stronger and faster moving zombie. When attacked enough times, these zombies would enter a dormant period before their transformation, in a process known as VACT. The virus regenerates cells and body tissue, which turns their skin red, and they grow long sharp claws on their hands. Besides biting at their prey's necks, the Crimson Heads will attempt to wear them down by using their claws to slash away at them before closing in for the kill. When researchers discovered the new virus strain, they had the Prototype 1 locked away in a coffin below ground to preserve it for future research. Though it moves and attacks the same way as the Crimson Heads, the Prototype 1 appeared to have grown large bone claws on its right hand, and was finally destroyed by members of STARS. Like with most mammals, dogs are affected the same way as their human counterparts. While their skins rot away to reveal muscle and bone beneath, they became more aggressive, hunting down living food while unable to feel any pain. These Doberman dog breeds were selected by Umbrella researchers to be used in their tests in the Arkley labs until the mansion's viral outbreak, when they escaped the grounds and began attacking hikers within the woods. While others continued to roam the mansion grounds, some had even made it as far as the Ecliptic Express train. They are fast and usually hunt in groups. Using their teeth, they'll either perform a jumping bite attack, use their jaws to clamp down on the victim's arm, or will even jump on top of them in an attempt to rip a chunk out of their necks. These dogs were experimental BOWs, given the codename Cerberus, named after the three-headed guardian dog of the underworld in Greek mythology. They were an early attempt at making a controllable BOW in the Arkley labs after disappointing results on humans. The Doberman was selected because of their intelligence and quick learning, and are amongst the few dog breeds favoured for military service as well as the Raccoon City Police Force. The T-virus was injected into them to nullify their pain while increasing their aggression. However, the tests failed, as like humans, the virus destroys their brain cells and were unable to be trained into sellable weapons. This humanoid creature is made up of a swarm of leeches that have the ability to group together and mimic their creator, James Marcus, right down to the suit he wore. They function as a collective intelligence thanks to the successful result of the progenitor virus being able to bond with Leech DNA that sped up their evolutionary process. They doubled in size and formed eye-like receptors on their bodies. While in the mimicry state, when approached by a threat, the leeches would lose their creator's image to reveal the swarm in human form just as they're about to attack. It has both short and long-range attacks, as it uses its right arm to either perform an upward strike when close, or will stretch its arm to whip their target from afar. Another attack it can do is grab their target to secrete an acidic-like fluid onto them. It can still perform these various attacks even when parts of its body are missing. The Mimicry Marcus's biggest drawback, however, is their weakness to fire. and when the creature senses life-threatening danger, they would sometimes break their humanoid form by exploding and scattering back into individual leeches that would then attempt to jump onto their targets to draw blood from them. The leeches carry large amounts of the T-virus, which was secreted onto the target when bitten, making virus transmissions very high. When the Queen Leech later fused with Marcus's body after his assassination, it inherited his memories and was able to form the Mimicry Marcus creatures to send onto the Ecliptic Express and the management training facility, as it, like Marcus, saw Umbrella as a threat to its very existence. Larger and more aggressive than normal crows, these birds are native to the Raccoon Forest region and are all secondary infectees. The crows were present in both the mansion incident and the management training facility. Though they don't look to be infected with the T-virus, they are nevertheless a danger to anyone who gets close to them. They'll mainly attack in a flock, overwhelming their prey and mauling them with their talons. The crows became infected after feeding off of zombies and animal remains contaminated with the T-virus. What's worse, because of their flight capability, the crows are a potential airborne vector that can spread the virus over a wide area. Another native creature to the Raccoon Forest region are the adders. These snakes live in large groups, and some eventually migrated toward the Spencer Mansion's courtyard, where they continued to live in the trees by the forest edge. When the viral outbreak occurred, the adders became secondarily infected after feeding on contaminated corpses. Though there were no physical changes to them, the virus made their venom more potent. They would lie in wait in the treetops and drop onto unsuspecting victims, or even slither across the surface of water to reach their prey. They'll do a bite attack on either ground or in water, sometimes coiling their bodies just before doing a lunging bite attack. And the snakes may attempt to wrap themselves around their target's leg to stop them from running away. One of these snakes was taken inside the lab as a research specimen and infected with the T-virus. It grew to gigantic proportions by the time the lab incident occurred, given the codename Yawn by researchers due to the way it opens its mouth when swallowing prey whole. Its fangs secrete an especially potent venom, one that requires special serum to cure. Apart from its venomous bite, the Yawn would also attempt to kill its prey by encircling it before swallowing them whole. Purposefully bred for BOW development, the plan was put on hold following the viral outbreak at the Arkley lab. The Yawn managed to escape where it found a new home within the Spencer Mansion. The stinger is the result of injecting the T-virus into a scorpion, which then grew to a giant size. The virus caused its exoskeleton to harden, making the creature able to withstand a lot of gunfire, and its pincers were strong enough to cut through almost anything. It was a project that Umbrella was continuing with as part of their research into arachnid-based BOWs after the failure of the spiders, and one specimen was brought onto the train with the second group of researchers on their way to the management training facility. When attacking, it will either use its pincers to perform a cross-strike, or a straight attack, embedding its pincer into the floor and making the creature temporarily vulnerable. It also has two tail attacks, where its stinger is used for either a quick stab attack or charges toward the target to knock them down with a stronger tail hit. If weak enough, the creature may pierce the victim with its pincers before impaling them with its tail. The stinger broke out of containment when the train was attacked by the Queen Leech. It's likely that the BOW was much smaller in size before being further exposed to the T-virus from the infected leeches. Encountered within the management training facility, the Centurion is a secondary infectee of a centipede that managed to become exposed to the T-virus after the facility was attacked by the Queen Leech. During this time, the centipede rapidly grew, feeding off of bigger prey in order to sustain its larger size, in this case, the cadavers of infected Umbrella researchers. The creature is as dangerous on the move as it is when it stops to attack, as it will use its many legs to maul the target when it passes them by. When it stops, the Centurion can attack from either ends depending on where their target stands. From the front, it will arch its body and strike with its mandibles. From the back, it will attack using its sharp rear legs. During Rebecca and Billy's search of the training facility, they found no evidence that the creature was in any way used in Umbrella's viral research, which makes this creature a non-BOW. These insects are secondarily infected that have grown 5 times their normal size, with a larger stinger, and due to the mansion outbreak, these wasps also carry a deadly poison that is now harmful to humans. They reside within the dormitory near the Spencer mansion where they work to build their nest. The infected wasps would swarm its prey and thrust their stinger into the target's body. It's likely due to Plant 42 being nearby that these wasps became infected when they fed on the pollen of the plant monster, and after the outbreak in the Arkley lab, the staff were unable to contain the growing threat of the wasp's nest. They were finally destroyed after the insecticide spray was used on their nest. Another secondary mutant, the infected bat resides within the chapel, behind the abandoned management training facility. It grew to an enormous size after the Queen Leech attack, when it became infected by possibly feeding off of the blood of a zombie. Its larger size is something of a rarity to happen for a mammal, considering other mammals infected would only be zombified. It attacks by either biting or clawing its prey. It will even lift them into the air and drop them to do damage. And the creature will summon a family of smaller bats if it feels threatened. These bats will attempt to bite at their target in order to wear them down and allow their mother to close in for the kill. Unlike the infected bat, these smaller variants were less exposed to the T-virus, meaning they became more aggressive but never fed on another infected creature to give them enough viral potency to grow, making the infected bat, like the Centurion, a freak occurrence. The appearance of these giant arachnids are similar to the Cerberuses in that the Arkley lab researchers tested the T-virus on spiders to see if they could be controllable bioweapons for use in warfare. The most notable effects of the virus on the spiders is its increased size, and there's one Arkley lab spider that grew even bigger after undergoing further experimentations, with its hair colour turning blue. A small number of these arachnid specimens were also found within the basement of the management training facility, presumably some of the earlier failed test subjects with the progenitor virus before the project was moved on to the leeches. Despite their size, all spider variations are surprisingly agile. They can climb along walls and ceilings, waiting for their unsuspecting victims to pass under, before dropping down for the kill. Wherever they're positioned, the spiders can spit venom to poison their prey, or do a charging attack using their front legs to bludgeon them. If killed, the spider's body may erupt, releasing either a group of baby spiders or will shoot out venom. The black tiger is much the same in most ways, except it has an even deadlier poisonous spit, and can knock down their targets with a powerful hit. As the web spinners in the Arkley lab were created through the primary infection of test specimens using the T-virus, they were among the first bioweapons developed, but due to their unpredictable natures, control of the spiders was impossible, so they were not practical as weapons. And like their progenitor-tested counterparts, research on the T-virus spiders was suspended, and most of them were destroyed, with the exception of a few kept alive for data collection. But after the outbreak, the spiders were free to roam the mansion and training facility, and began to grow unchecked, including the black tiger that found its way into the tunnels below the courtyard and began to create a nest for itself. Given the appropriate name Plague Crawler, these giant locust-like creatures are an insect-based BOW that developed sharp mandibles and gained more strength in their legs to be able to jump towards larger prey such as humans. Like the web spinners, several plague crawlers had managed to survive the cull at the training facility and were left alone for the next few years after Marcus's assassination, likely eating on other insects, then rodents as it grew bigger. When Umbrella researchers arrived and the Leech attack followed to spread the new T-virus strain across the facility, the plague crawlers grew at an even faster rate that included the creature's appetite. It uses its mandibles to do a vertical slice at the target, either by performing the quick attack or a stronger hit, and it will jump onto its intended meal in an attempt to eat them. The plague crawlers could have been easily produced in large quantities, as well as the spiders, to be sold on the black market to dictators and terrorists, but as these creatures were unable to be controlled, the project became another failure, and Umbrella ultimately scrapped them. The Arkley lab wasn't the only research facility on the mansion grounds. Below the dormitory, there's a smaller facility called the Aqua Ring, where Umbrella were conducting experiments on 3 great white sharks to test the compatibility of the T-virus on fish life. But like with most mammals and reptiles, when subjected to the T-virus, they became aggressive and uncontrollable. What stopped researchers from ending the project was when one of the sharks started to mutate and grow to an even larger size. This piqued their interest for further studies, and this shark was given the codename Neptune, named after the Roman god of the seas. The regular-sized sharks will either do a jumping bite attack or will grip their jaws around the victim's legs to prevent them from escaping. If they are weak enough to kill, then Neptune will jump out of the water and devour them. When the Stars Alpha team arrived, they managed to drain most of the water from the room, rendering the sharks unable to swim, but the threat of Neptune still remained. It was finally killed when a control panel was pushed into the shallow waters and the power turned back on. That electrified the water to destroy the BOW. Another experiment that took place within the dormitory building was the viral testing on plants. The result was a large carnivorous plant monster that fed on the blood of its victims. The plant grew to such a size because of the contaminated water from the broken shark tank in the Aqua Ring. Plant 42 grew to a monstrous size that its roots were able to reach down through the floorboards and feed from the chemical-rich water in the basement, while its vines spread throughout the building in search of living food. It also grew a hardened outer shell to protect its softer interior core. Against any threat it may face, the plant monster will attack by swiping its tentacle-like vine at them. If they are out of reach, Plant 42 can shoot an acidic fluid. Or if the threat is directly beneath, it can rain down acid from its main body. If the target is hiding, nearby plant pods can spew out a noxious gas. And given the chance, Plant 42 may even grab them to slam them down to the ground. The plant monster was created when a researcher injected a random plant with the T-virus out of curiosity in the umbrella location designated as Point 42, where it got its codename. The monster inevitably grew out of their control as it expanded its tendrils around the building, using the cracks in the floor to attack passing staff members and feeding on their blood. The umbrella staff discovered too late how to destroy Plant 42 due to the outbreak. Known as V-Jolt, the plan was to destroy it by applying this chemical mixture directly to the monster's roots. This plan would eventually be implemented by certain STARS members to help them finally destroy the plant monster. These albino monkeys, with exposed patches of ripped flesh, are one of Umbrella's earliest bioweapon experiments on mammals. They were selected because primates have a basic level of intelligence and are able to follow simple orders, but the results with the progenitor virus was less than satisfactory, as although the virus made them lose their perception of pain, the Eliminators became extremely aggressive and thus difficult to control. These creatures are fast and generally move by hopping around the area, making themselves difficult to target. They'll try to swing their arms out to scratch their prey by doing a jumping attack, or jump onto them to chew on their necks. Although Eliminators did show some early signs of promise, Marcus eventually scrapped this project when he decided to take the next step: bioweapons research on human beings. The Eliminators, like the other creatures within the management training facility, were thought by Umbrella to have been culled by Marcus shortly before they ordered his assassination and moved his entire research to the Arkley lab for the following years, but the creatures remained deep inside the abandoned facility to roam free. The Hunters are one of Umbrella's most successful BOWs that they were able to sell on the black market. Since then, they've appeared all over the world in combat zones, and are one of the most deadliest creatures ever produced. They have sharp claws and are incredibly agile, with enough intelligence required to follow simple orders. As they are bred for combat, the Hunters will use their claws as weapons that extend on both their hands and feet. They'll close the distance to perform a quick swipe attack at either the target's legs or upper bodies, even sometimes doing a double slash. With the Hunter's leg strength, they can do a jumping slash at their torso, or pin them to the ground to deliver the killing blow. They'll sometimes even kill the targets by launching at them to slice at their throats. If the hunter is dying, it may violently lash out in a last-ditch effort to kill its target before succumbing. The Hunter Alphas were created by injecting reptilian DNA into a human embryo before using the T-virus as a bonding agent. The result is the creatures developed a hardened green-scaled skin with increased muscle mass that made them resilient and more difficult to kill. Some even developed a red-tinted skin that were possibly even stronger variants, and while other BOWs suffered the loss of intelligence due to the T-virus destroying brain cells, the Hunters retained enough to be able to follow simple commands. After the attack on the Arkley lab, the Hunter Alphas managed to escape using the underground tunnel networks that led them towards the Spencer Mansion and beyond. These frog-based amphibians were one of the earliest experiments with the progenitor. There had been various tests with different species that ultimately ended as failed experiments, and the Lurkers were no different. The application of the virus initially showed some promise, as the results revealed that the creature's body typically enlarged, growing sharp nails on its hands and feet, and had a superior jumping ability. To hunt for food, the Lurkers usually prefer to use hit-and-jump tactics. They'll appear near to their unsuspecting prey, attack with their long tongue, then jump away to safety, and when the target is weak enough, the Lurkers would use their tongue to wrap around their food, pulling them into their mouth, and often slamming them into the ground to knock them unconscious, so they're unable to struggle while slowly being digested. However, despite their increased aggression and offensive capabilities, the Lurkers showed no brain development, which means that they would target anybody, making them uncontrollable in combat situations. So further development of these creatures were inevitably scrapped. Some of the Lurkers managed to escape Marcus's former lab and moved into the treatment plant, where the wet environment was more suitable for their home. While the hunters were being developed, there was another project being conducted elsewhere within the Arkley lab that was equally sinister and more grotesque. By combining human DNA with that of a fly's, then using the T-virus bonding process, Umbrella was able to create a new BOW called the Chimera. Bearing very little resemblance to a human being, they developed small wings that gave them no flight capabilities. The whole body is covered with fly hair, and they have exposed human muscles, while their hands and feet have grown into sharp bone-like claws that can be used to hunt for food or to climb along ceilings. With this ability, the Chimeras are capable of attacking from directly above their victims by swinging their arms down to grab them by the neck and choking them. If not eventually freed from their grip, then the target would die from their throats being slashed. On the ground, the Chimera will use their claws to either do a quick horizontal swipe or a slow vertical slice. Named after the Chimeras in Greek mythology, who were monster hybrids of different animals, these BOWs eventually became another failed project. Like most of Umbrella's other experiments, the T-virus destroyed their brain cells, which meant that they were difficult to control. The Chimera project, like so many others before them, was scrapped, and the researchers turned all their focus on the hunters. After the lab was abandoned to the undead, the Chimeras remained there as they waited for their next prey. This monstrosity was the first test subject created from a human to serve as the precursor to all later Tyrant models. Although the virus did increase his strength, Proto-Tyrant's intelligence levels didn't develop to the standards required to be combat ready, as it was unable to follow commands. After the data was collected, research was suspended for the next few years until Umbrella could find the right person to adapt to the T-virus. The Proto-Tyrant was scheduled for disposal, while the data would eventually be transferred to the T-002 model. He was moved from the Arkley labs to the underground facility beneath the vacant factory, where he had somehow escaped, presumably by members of STAR's Bravo team, who during their search of the area may have inadvertently released him. The Proto-Tyrant had suffered from a number of unforeseen side effects during the experiments, including a damaged nervous system that caused him to have involuntary muscle spasms, while his heart grew larger, appearing out of his chest. His spinal column protrudes from the back, and the right hand has grown into a deformed bone claw. First encountered by the elevator within the Umbrella lab, he has several types of attacks. Proto-Tyrant will use his long claw to either do a lunge attack, a quick turn attack, a double slash. With his left hand, the monster will either swipe his hand across or backhands his target. If given the chance, the target may even get impaled by the bone claw from a forward thrust. After taking enough damage, the Proto-Tyrant blacks out, giving the STAR's survivor the chance to escape, but eventually it regains consciousness and begins to hunt for the survivors again. Making his way to the treatment plant, Proto-Tyrant finally locates his target for a final battle. It has the same attacks as before, only this time he finally dies from his battle wounds. In the lowest basement level of the Arkley lab was one of Umbrella's most ambitious weapons development projects. The T-002, or Tyrant, like its predecessor, was the corporation's attempt at creating the ultimate biological weapon, powerful beings that would be unrivaled in combat abilities, such as durability, heightened strength, fast moving, and with the intelligence to follow a variety of commands on the battlefield, beyond that of the Hunter models. The project was on halt for years due to the rarity of a certain gene for intelligence, which allowed a human infected with the T-virus to mutate but not suffer from brain cell damage like the other BOWs. But one unknown person was found to have successfully adapted with the T-virus, and the Tyrant project could finally continue. Tyrant grew to 3 times the size of the average man, his skin turning a greyish colour with an outer cardiovascular system showing a large pulsating heart. His other distinguishable feature are his large deadly claws, seen on the left hand, that can extend for greater damage. The Tyrant was somewhat of a success, but further development of the T-002 never happened due to the lab attack. Awakening within the lab after years of deep sleep, the Tyrant was weak and slow to begin with, walking tentatively towards his target and testing out his deadly claws for the first time. His attacks include a cross slash, a double swipe, a forward thrust, and a kill move whereby Tyrant will try to weaken the target first with a double claw slice before attempting to impale them. However, due to Tyrant's weak state, the STARS survivors were able to subdue it long enough for them to escape to the heliport. By the time they get there, the fully awakened BOW catches up to them. Now at peak strength and agility, Tyrant utilizes the same attacks from the lab with stronger force that knocks the targets across the heliport with some additional attacks. He's able to sprint at speeds that exceed even that of the hunter and will dash toward the target to knock them to the ground. He also has another kill move where he puts the target in a chokehold before impaling them with his claws. But against overwhelming odds, the Tyrant was eventually killed by STARS using a rocket launcher. After knocking aside the first incoming rocket, Tyrant explodes from a direct hit by a second. One of the most tragic stories to come from the Spencer mansion is that of Lisa Trevor, the daughter of the building's architect George Trevor. She's a deformed being who wears an old hospital gown and hides her real face behind a collection of rotten flesh masks. She also has a crooked spine and developed a hunchback. The various treatments she received over the years had developed her natural immune system to the point that she was almost invulnerable, but her mind had regressed to that of a child. As the first human to survive the application of the progenitor virus, Umbrella continued to experiment on her for the next few decades. It was Oswald Spencer, the co-founder of Umbrella, who invited the Trevor family over for a visit, where he arranged for their capture. Though George Trevor was away on business at the time, and Lisa's mother, Jessica, died soon after she was given the Type A strain, Lisa survived the injection of the B-type strain, adapting to it, making her the ideal test subject for future viruses, including the NE-alpha parasite that Umbrella was testing for their Nemesis project. But her body only absorbed, rather than transformed Lisa, and the parasite remained dormant. It was also from Lisa's body that William Birkin eventually discovered the G-virus and managed to isolate a sample from her. When Umbrella was done with Lisa, they tried to have her killed and failed. Instead, they bound her in a shackle with chains and left her to roam below the Arkley estate. Lisa continued to search tirelessly for her lost mother. Though her mind had regressed, Lisa was still capable of speaking some words and was able to build a home beneath a forest cabin, filling it with dolls and childhood memories. Lisa is first encountered within the cabin, then later beneath the estate in a tunnel network close to her living quarters. She attacks by using her bound arms to either perform an upward or downward strike. Lisa will swing her arms in a 180 turn if a threat moves behind her. When shot at, evidence of the parasite within her is revealed when tentacles protrude from her body. In the third and final encounter with the STARS members, within a cabin hiding a secret sarcophagus, Lisa appears even more aggressive. Now the parasite tentacles remain on her outer body, and she's grown a small eyeball on her back, evidence of both having the G-virus and the NE-alpha parasite. She'll even use the tentacles to attack anyone behind her. and has developed enough strength in her thin legs to be able to spring a surprise attack by jumping toward her targets. It was only after the sarcophagus opened that Lisa Trevor ceased her attacks, as she finally discovered the skeletal remains of her mother. Lisa takes her mother's skull from its resting place before jumping into the chasm. It's most likely that Lisa Trevor had perished when the mansion blew up. The events that took place in the Raccoon Forest region happened as a consequence of James Marcus's research with the T-virus on leeches. After his assassination by the Umbrella Security Service, his body was dumped into the waters of the treatment plant along with his leech specimens. At this point, due to the virus, they had become a collective swarm of intelligent creatures that could connect to each other. In this case, the leeches had shaped into a humanoid, and seeing the corpse of Marcus as a potential source for sustenance, the so-called Queen Leech consumed him. This in turn not only made them able to absorb his memories, but they took on the appearance of James Marcus in his earlier adult years. The Queen Leech had assimilated the thoughts and feelings of its creator and began to imitate Marcus. It had full control over countless leeches that it used to fulfill Marcus's dying wish of taking revenge on Umbrella, and began to attack nearby facilities that brought about the viral outbreak. When the other BOWs failed to kill Rebecca Chambers and Billy Cohen, the Queen Leech confronted them directly within the treatment plant. While still maintaining a humanoid form, the creature lost its appearance as Marcus to now reveal itself as a leech swarm. It uses its left arm to perform a double whip attack, and its right arm to do a straight punch. The creature will sometimes attempt to grab the target to try to crush their body, and after taking enough damage, the Queen Leech's back will open to unleash several tentacles that it will use to strike its target from any direction, or utilize them to snatch its target from further away to perform the same grab attack. Supposedly defeated, the Queen Leech healed from the injuries by gathering more leeches to its body and mutated into something bigger and stronger. In the second form, it lost its legs to replace them with a large tail and formed a giant mouth full of spiked tipped teeth where the Queen Leech's head used to be. It will do a charging attack to knock the target to the floor if they're directly in front, or will swipe its tail at them if they are behind it, and either spit an acid-like substance at a long range from out of the opening of its back, or if the threat is closer, it will spit the acidic bile around itself. When part of the crumbling ceiling in the cargo room came away, the Queen Leech revealed its greatest weakness by being exposed to a ray of sunlight. This weakness was exploited when the shutters were finally opened to bathe the monster in sunlight. This weakened it enough to receive a fatal bullet from a magnum that was powerful enough to knock it back down the elevator shaft, where it was destroyed by the fires raging below ground. The self-destruct sequence that destroyed the entire complex had put an end to the leeches. Hey everyone, thanks for watching the video and I hope you enjoyed it. I've been a bit busy for the last few weeks as I've mentioned in my post, but things should return to normal now. There'll be plenty more monster analysis videos to come, and some of these don't even have to be about monsters. I'm interested in doing a Metal Gear Solid enemies analysis video. Some of you are interested in me doing 1 or 2 playthroughs, so many of you have voted for Tomb Raider, so I'll do that. As there is some interest for Batman Arkham Asylum as well, I might as well do them both. For my next Easter eggs and references video, I'll be doing Red Dead Redemption 2. So if you're interested in any of these, then subscribe. That way you can stay up to date on all future videos I put up. And once again, thanks to all of you who have subscribed and are continuing to help make this channel grow. So until the next video, bye everyone.